Good morning. Somewhere in between, lots on my mind and not much on my mind at all. I'm somewhere in between, looking towards wrapping up 2018. But a good way to start 2019 is to ask ourselves about what's real. Most of us are attached to the ephemeral, the fleeting. We're a little bit deluded about what's real. Maybe when we look in the mirror, we think that image is real, rather than grasping that we have remarkable imaginations. All that we think around us that is real is just an accumulation of our overactive imagination. And when I really started to grasp this, what caused me to really wrestle with my ideas, my passive almost acceptance of all that I perceived, all that I ascertained around me was real. But then, once again, it's in the realms of dreams. So much has come to me in these realms, this dreaming state. And a reoccurring dream that occurred long ago, but persisted to almost present day, is the dream within a dream, where I dreamed that I was wide awake and that the realms of my dreams were real. It was in the waking hours, the daytime waking hours, that the dream was really occurring. So I started questioning what's real and what's not real. And this active pursuit, this persistent questioning, led me to the state of wondering, considering that it didn't matter much. What was real or not real, according to my senses, according to my perceptions, was of little import. And this is the basis, this is kind of a good place. Don't take yourself so seriously. Consider that you're part of the cosmic joke, that some great trickster, and I love the trickster tradition, almost all indigenous cultures embrace this trickster image, this trickster idea, the great trickster in the sky. Who could be held accountable for all the tricks life seems to play on us? So anyway, reoccurring, revisiting about real. And this idea that when I was awake, not lying in my bed, when I was walking around, that this perhaps was the real dream state. And if there was a reality, or if I was able to grasp any aspect of what reality is, it lie in my sleeping hours. So once you juxtapose, once you switch, once you begin the process of pondering, wondering, when you're truly awake or you're simply sleeping in a dream state. What is the dream state? How inclusive is the dream state? Well, it turns out it's overwhelmingly inclusive. You begin to see everything as a dream, whether you're sleeping or awake. It's all a dream. Now, many people come to this point of awareness that all is not well in the realms of their perceived reality. And they make a mistaken leap. It's an obvious leap, and it's not hard to understand that they make this leap to, well, nothing really matters. If nothing is real, nothing matters. And herein, as they say, lies the rub. It's apples and oranges. As long as we inhabit these vessels, we have a responsibility for our behavior, for our actions. Remember the talk of a couple of days about karma. Karma is actions, work, or deeds. And we definitely have responsibility for our actions, words, and deeds. And the cursory look at karma, you see it as a outside, but our action, work, and deeds are equally part of this accumulation of karma. But previous to beginning the process of elimination, this process that I find my mind so useful, learning what's not so, ascertaining what's not so. I read quite often that thinking is something to be overcome somehow. Thinking is to be dismissed. And I understand on the level of the monkey mind. The monkey mind needs to be understood for exactly what it is. But where I diverge, where I don't agree with many others, is that the thinking process is not to be simply dismissed, discarded, overcome. It can be ignored, especially on the monkey mind level. But jhana yoga, the transformation from information to knowledge to ultimate wisdom, is one of the 4 yogic paths. And this path celebrates the mind's role in the evolution, in the remembering, in the awakening, and ultimate enlightenment of the being, of the soul. So I continue to use my mind. I continue the constant vigilance it takes to assign my monkey mind to essentially the realms of nonsense. Taming the monkey mind. But even the monkey mind is not without its usefulness. It's not something to simply be overcome. Especially in my experience, the hope, the essential misinterpretation of one of the Zen precepts about silencing the mind leads to clarity. Of this, I have no doubt that it's an exercise. It's a way of a yogi. Karma yoga, yogi, through actions, work and deeds, seva, through bhakti yoga, the compassion, the total surrender to love. These paths perhaps include conquering the mind with the promise of clarity. Whereas jhana yoga, the path of knowledge, contains the necessity of the usefulness of the mind. And the reward is equanimity, the ability to simply be, totally be in the moment without judgment, this serene acceptance of what's so, this balanced reaction, this seeing happy moments or sad moments in the equalness of non-duality. So we're talking about ephemeral and the ephemerals that can be pluralized. The attachment, and attachment is the opposite of the state that you want to strive for, the state of letting go. A much more useful process than attachment. But along the path, just as attachment to the ephemerals, to the temporary, in the mistaken understanding that they're what's lasting. So these attachments have to be let go. But then, ironically, you come to a state of letting go, the letting go. If that makes any sense at all. You have to let go, the process of letting go. And it's a little more, it's not as obvious as the challenges of attachment. But if you're going to be attached, if this is useful in your process, and remember, I'm one that doesn't discard anything that can be a tool that helps you in your exploration, helps you in your remembering, helps you in letting go what you can't see because you conveniently have temporarily forgotten. So I'm the last to eliminate anything that you find useful. We all have our own priorities, our own tools that are available. But once you see the ephemeral, the short term, the short lasting of physical life, unlike many people, I like cut flowers. Of course, growing flowers are infinitely better, but cut flowers. I'm really happy to bring my wife several yellow roses, as yellow is the color that she enjoys most, and put them on our dining room table with water, and watch the process as they begin to, die, even though their death was assured when they're cut. But even if you leave a rose on a living rose bush, it still is ephemeral. It still won't last long. The maturation of the seeds, which contain the essence of continuity of life. So speed it up on my table. And there becomes a point when they start to droop and start to brown, and I'll take the water out and still leave them on the table and enjoy this process as much as I enjoyed buying them clothes and putting them in water and watching them wake up, watching them spread their wings in a way, watch them unfold. And it's still, even as they die and they dry up, they're not without their beauty. So I enjoy this process much the same as I enjoy the process of living. Within life is death. From our first breath, the process of dying has begun. And this, far from being a depressing or bothersome perception, I embrace it because ephemeral should be celebrated. The problem comes when we become attached. The idea that we don't want things to change, which of course flies into the face of what we see as real. But underlying all these insights is the peace, the security that you obtain as you accept the ephemeral nature of life, the apparent ephemeral nature of life, without attachment. As you see the ebb and flow that is life, the biggest reward is fearlessness. There absolutely is nothing to be afraid of. Embrace change. Use it to your advantage. If you don't like who you are or what you are, begin the process of changing, as this is the only constant in our physical existence. So use it as your friend instead of your foe. Think of the freedom that you have to transform yourself, your self-image, the image that you can only imagine that others have of you, as you can never truly know what people feel and think about you. It's only in your imagination. is in your imagination. It's the realm of fears as well. We imagine that we will die. We imagine that we suffer. And this word suffer just led me to something else. The idea, the Buddhist precept that all life is suffering is so misunderstood. Because life undoubtedly has joys, pleasures, rewards, just as much as there is sadness and regrets and mistakes. So, what suffering was Buddha talking about? What could he possibly been alluding to? Well, to each his own. It's up to each of us. But my interpretation has always been that the suffering comes from the forgetting that we are eternal beings, forgetting about unity, replacing it with separation and division. It's here that the sorrow comes from, as we can learn to remember, as we begin the process of remembering what we've always known. The suffering that the Buddha alluded to becomes more understandable. It's not that life is suffering and then you die. It's life is suffering until you awaken, until you remember, until you hear the echoes of the universe. The secrets, so-called secrets, are yours to discover. And all you have to do is commit to a path of discovering. This is the seeking. And seeking is a preliminary and necessary stage or state of being. To be a seeker until you get the joke, until you see that what the seeker was looking for in the great wide world around us resides within. It's the act of inward seeing, the relegation of outward seeing as illusionary, as Maya. The realness is within. There's nowhere to go because nowhere is now here. What's the difference? We read it. Nowhere or now here. It seems to be linguistic. It's an emphasis. It's a division of consonants and vowels, words. But it's much more than that. There's several simple reminders. I am. You want to complicate it a little bit? I am that I am. Useful. The I amness. The enveloping. The inclusive. And another useful set of vowels and consonants, words. In this case, nowhere and now here. It's the understanding, the simple understanding, and within simplicity, the irony that the simple is the most difficult. The complicated can be broken down and dealt with in bits and pieces, but the simplicity is there in its entirety, not to be broken down, not to be considered in bits and pieces. So the complicated becomes the uncomplicated, and the simple appears to be the most elusive, simply because it can't be broken down any farther than it already is. So we started out about attachment with ephemerals, short-lived, and everything, it turns out, is short-lived except our universal soul. Even in cosmic time, cosmic years, cosmic centuries, the elusiveness, the ephemeralness of all that we've accepted as real becomes obvious, and it's an occasion for celebration. It's an occasion for a milestone. It becomes the stepping stone to embracing what is.